Hi, I'm Steve Almond. I'm a writer and a teacher and a dad. And this spring, I'll publish a new book, which is called Truth is the Arrow, Mercy is the Bow. It began as a craft book based on my 30 years of teaching writing and storytelling. But the more I wrote, the more I felt myself shying away from kind of wise teacher mode because as a writer, I almost never feel wise. And I certainly usually don't feel like I'm in control of what I'm working on. I feel adrift and addled and totally choked by doubt most of the time. So some of this book is about craft because I think it's vital for writers to be able to put language to their most common struggles with stuff like plot and narration and character development and chronology. But most of the book is really written from the perspective of a writer who's trying, sometimes quite ineptly, to make a career from the practice of writing. That means that the book goes beyond the technical aspects of craft to the sources of inspiration, where stories come from, and how our creativity gets activated and driven. And even more important, to the various emotional and psychological forces that inhibit our creative aspirations. I'm talking about the kind of inner demons that haunt the creative process: writer's block, competitive envy, anxiety about exposure, and of course, my personal favorite, fear of failure. So I hope you'll join me for my upcoming class, 5 things I've learned about writing, failing, and trying again, because it's these demons, which I hardly ever get talked about in writing classes, that I really want to explore with you. Above all, I want to share what I think are the 2 most important things I've learned after 3 decades at the keyboard. The first is that every single person on earth is a storyteller. We are all trying to understand the story of our lives and the story of um, the lives of the people who we love. And second, that the essential tools of this creative process of writing, or really any creative pursuit, are really quite basic: patience and forgiveness and courage. As I'll try to explain in this 2-hour class, I found all of this out for myself the hard way and only a little bit at a time. And back in 2022, at the tender age of 55, I published a book called All the Secrets of the World, which was my first published novel. It was actually the 5th novel that I'd written. The other 4 were never published, though I worked on them for years and years. The truth is, I spent my entire career defining myself as a failed novelist. I really do not recommend this kind of thinking to fellow writers or artists of any kind. But my sense is that most of us succumb to this self-doubt on some level. And rather than esteeming our own efforts and triumphs, we fixate on our failures. This happens in large part because we're told to hide our failures directly and indirectly a million times a day. It turns out that's the wrong approach, in my view. In our time together, I'll discuss what I've come to learn, I think, for me anyway, is the right approach, which is to accept failure as a necessary step on the way to success and to reframe our creative failures as opportunities for learning and growth. I'll share the process by which I came to understand that it was, in fact, the writing of my earlier failed novels that ultimately allowed me to work through all the bad decisions that had doomed those books. My hope is to help writers and other creative artists reckon with their demons rather than blaming themselves. The goal isn't just to tighten up a meandering plot or push deeper into a character's inner life, but to renew your essential faith in the imaginative endeavor. That's a goal that transcends writing, by the way. It applies to everything that you do in life. If you've ever failed at a creative endeavor and hidden that failure and the feeling that comes from failure, this is the class for you. So I really hope you'll join me. Thanks.